Damar Hamlin died on the field less than a year ago, and here he is on the team, whether it be active or not on game day. He's alive, and he's playing his dream.
We play like in big games, we seem to shine, but then we sometimes lose it against lesser talent. Is that what you're saying?
You just summed up our season. 37-31 Bills.
I want to say my bold prediction is that Josh Allen has no interceptions, but even that's tough.
So are you saying that this is a must-win game?
I think it's a must-win game, yeah. And I
think
I want to predict. I don't want to have to predict against the Bills, but I'm going to predict that the Bengals win. And okay. I hope I'm wrong.
Set your expectations low, and then you're less likely to be disappointed.
And I'm in a world of pain in my fantasy life. And are we going to have a Sunday night game where we see, as McDermott loves to say, complimentary football?
If we play complimentary football, we win 31-17. If we play like we did against the Giants and Bucks, we lose by 10. We should both be buying Fireball and FaceTime each other before the games. I don't care if you're working. Take a shot.
The juju's off.
You could be home in time, and I'll have to go get some.
Yeah, trying to keep up with the chat's been tough.
You're just a terrible friend.
Not true.
I was waiting for you to get defensive. You're just like, not true. I'm a good friend. Welcome back to another edition of The House That Allen Built. This is episode 45. I'm Scott Kinmartin, and with me sometimes is
Greg Vollmer.
What's been going on, Greg?
We're back.
And we're back.
Yeah,
it's definitely not the same without you in person. Tell me what you've been up to.
I have been working my life away. I have been working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at best. Like a good night is getting off before 8, but usually it's anywhere from 8 to 9 p.m. 5 days a week. So I will say 2 days off a week is nice, but I'm getting in about 60, 65 hours a week, which is a shock to the system because I was only working 40 hours a week before starting this job when I moved to Madison. So about 25 hours more a week I'm working.
That is a lot. That's a few extra days a week.
Yeah,
really.
And I'm averaging 15, 16 miles of walking a day, 18 at most. Anywhere from 34 to 38,000 steps is what I'm averaging.
Oh my God.
So
That's crazy. When I did a hike here, Silver Falls, it has like 13 waterfalls. I think that was 12 or 13 miles. And that was what, 30,000 plus steps or whatever it equates to.
Yeah. Now, granted, I'm not like doing the elevation changes that a hike is, but a lot of these routes have hills as you're walking to and from the mailbox or up and to the mailbox and down like the lawn or front entrance. But also you're having to keep track of 100 plus packages on a route, anywhere from 60 to 100 plus packages, and delivering the right mail to each address as you're flipping through mail and looking into your satchel for packages and doing 15 to 18 miles. So I don't want to be like, woe is me, because no one wants to hear complaining about a new job because it's always going to be hard. But it's been a lot for me to handle for sure. I didn't want to have the podcast take a back seat, but it definitely has, clearly. Thank you for being understanding and letting, obviously you get that it's been a lot between moving and starting a new job and then trying to keep the podcast going. And then ultimately I waved the white flag to you, and said, hey, I just can't. Yeah. I can't keep up with everything else that's going on, and just don't feel I didn't want to feel like I was half-assing it. And that's how I started to feel like this was, instead of something fun to do, I started feeling like, because of my work schedule, that it was more of an obligation to try to fit it in late at night with the time difference too.
Yeah. And, to your credit, when we were doing these last year in person, we were doing a recap and then we were jumping right into a preview that night a lot of times. Sometimes we'd film them a couple of days apart, but you were getting a ride here every time and I was bringing you home. We just had like a routine down and it was fun to do. And it didn't feel like a burden because you did it typically on your day off or in the evening when you had time because you were off by 3:30, right?
Yeah. And that's the big thing. The schedule was so much less demanding as far as hours. Doing a job to get done at before 4 p.m. every day was, this is the complete opposite.
Even though it's 9:45 here, it's almost midnight for you. And I've got a 2-year-old that we have to get ready for bed, and then he like bounces around and it takes him a while to get settled. And I'm like, okay, I'm finally available. So
what is new in your life?
I'm managing, videos and social media stuff for several accounts, and it's a lot of work. So obviously I've been watching the games live, so I'm fortunate to do that on Sundays or Thursdays or whatever day. But That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm still able to watch the games, but it feels a lot different. I've gone to Cheerful twice out of 8 games. It's just not the same, man. And Brant was there for the last game with me, and he went the week before when I wasn't there. And he's like, man, this sucks if you're not here. Like if one of you two can't be there, I don't want to come. And I get that until you know new people. You and I got to know each other. We hit it off early, and it's been cool because obviously you're not from Buffalo, but you certainly eat, sleep, and shit football and the Bills specifically.
It doesn't feel like it this year. And it's more with my work life right now.
Well,
but you're keeping us going. You and Brand are keeping me going in the group chat because even though I can't reply as much, and I feel like I'm so freaking busy. You're still keeping everything going, and I feel part of the disconnect. I feel disconnected to the season. I think that's the biggest word to use. How I feel like emotionally about the season is I feel disconnected because, like you said, I have only been able to watch 2 games live, and that was the opening game against the Jets. Yep, on Monday Night Football, and then the Thursday Night Football game against the Buccaneers. Now, luckily, we've got more primetime games to go.
Oh yeah, a lot more. So we've got Cincinnati Sunday Night Football, which is 5:30 or 5:20 my time. It would be 7:20 your time or 8:20 local time in Buffalo. And then we go right into a Monday Night Football game against the Broncos at home. Then we host the Jets on Sunday. Then we play at Philadelphia, which is going to be a tough game. And we go from 5:20 p.m. or sorry, let's just do primetime. Monday night, which is a prime time, Sunday afternoon, so not morning. Normally it's like 1 o'clock Eastern, but now it's 4:25 Eastern, and we're doing that for 2 weeks in a row. Then we have our bye week after Philly. Then we're going to Kansas City, and that's another 4:25 Eastern. Then we play home against Dallas, another 4:25. We have 4 afternoon games in a row. Then we go back to a Saturday night against the Chargers in LA. And then we, on New Year's Eve, which is a Sunday this year, we have our only remaining 10 a.m. Pacific or 1 p.m. Eastern game against the Patriots, which is crazy. And of course, we finished the season in Miami. So it's like a vacation for these guys. They're not going to have to melt in September, and we blew them out by 4 touchdowns. But they talk a lot of ish when it comes to their fans, and they are back on top. Our last podcast was Bills reclaim the AFC East. Well, hate to tell you, unless the Bills beat Cincinnati and the Chiefs beat the Dolphins, we will once again not be on top unless that happens. So we've got to root for the Chiefs and root for the Bills. I know.
All right, so I said I feel disconnected from the season a little bit, given that I haven't been able to see games in real time other than a select few. Speaking of disconnected, a lot of people, I feel, think that our offense has looked a little disconnected more than not in this season that's halfway through pretty much. How do you think the offense is going to look in Cincinnati? Do you think they're going to pick up kind of with that momentum that was gained in the Buccaneers game where they spread it around? Allen spread it to different weapons, and they're starting to utilize Kincaid now with Knox out. What do you think the offense is going to look like?
Once again, as soon as we get down on Dorsey, he's kind of like Josh Allen's spirit animal, like they're both super talented, super competitive, and they have a bad week and everyone's like, oh, Dorsey, Allen, whatever. The national media at least gets down on Allen, where us locally, we don't want to hate on Allen because he's the best thing since Kelly. And shit, after this season, he might be the best ever, including Kelly. And I do think that they showed a lot of promise distributing the ball to Diggs, but also other people. You had Shakir get 8 or 9 catches for 92 yards. You had Kincaid right up the middle for 6 or 7, and he scored his first NFL touchdown. So congratulations to Kincaid.
And Josh Allen made sure to grab the ball for him, saying stupid effing rookies.
I know.
You don't want him to make any stupid effing rookie mistakes. And he made sure to grab his first touchdown to make sure he's got his ball to put in his display case.
It's nice to see. And what sucks is we lost Damian Harris several weeks ago on like the first drive. I think he had 1 carry, and it was scary.
Wait, we had an injury? What?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we've lost Trey White. We've lost Daquan Jones. We've lost Matt Milano.
We don't lose people. Come on.
We're
perfectly healthy.
Terrell Bernard has been a blessing. I just wish we could have seen him with Milano more. It would have been amazing. I think when they bring in Dotson, it makes me nervous. But what they've been doing is bringing Poyer down as a third linebacker and bringing in Taylor Rapp, which early on in the season, it did not go over well. But now he's acclimated into our defense and the system. And I think it gives me more hope. Now in the middle, we've got Linval Joseph, who I think will actually be active this weekend. I looked through his stuff. He's 35, and he actually has played quite a bit. And last year he played for the Eagles and has a Super Bowl ring. I mean, he was out there for like 30% of their snaps with having only half of a season in. They threw him right into 36% of snaps, like his first game in. And I think they'll do that with him now. And he's predominantly a run stuffer. He's not the greatest pass rusher. He's not going to get a bunch of sacks. I think in his career, he has like 22 and a half or something. So I'm excited to see what he can do to help Oliver and try to replace some of what Daquan Jones did. But to go back to your question, I think the offense having Leonard Fournette, I don't know if he'll be active or if he'll have much of a role this game, but man, is he in shape. He's got biceps for thighs. Like the dude is just, he's a big boy.
I was about to say, did you hear anything about his hamstrings?
Yeah.
Apparently his hamstrings are quite pronounced.
At his first practice, he tried to make a statement, and he wore Bills football pants. They were game day pants that were cut up to his upper thigh, and sleeveless and no gloves, none of that. And then the Bills posted basically a meme that said 3 hours later from like the SpongeBob thing. And it showed him with the long sleeves, the leggings, a different pair of cleats even, and he had the little fanny pack thing, the hand warmer. So he's definitely, and then he tweeted like,
Buffalo's colder than a penguin's ass or something like that.
Yes. I was keeping it PG, but that's not too bad. But it's nice to have moves like that. And obviously Rasul Douglas at the trade deadline was our biggest move to try to fill in for Trey White. And I think over the next few weeks that could happen. I mean, Bean had basically compared him to the early Josh Norman and some of these other guys that had a slow start, like Micah Hyde even, right? He wasn't a stud right off the bat. Jordan Poyer, they weren't given the chance right off the bat. They developed into these guys in the secondary that they are now. Rasul Douglas, it took 3 or 4 teams and years before he really clicked, and then he kind of took off. And with Green Bay, he's thrived as their CB2, but he could be a quarterback 1 in more than half the teams. And I think he's good. And I think they'll probably use him long-term if Trey's not able to come back. Obviously, we still have Dane Jackson. We still have Christian Benford. We still have Kaiir Elam. They did not trade him. They put him on IR for at least 4 weeks. They shut him down because of an apparent ankle injury that he's been dealing with since the preseason and even last year. It's more of a bone bruise from what I've heard from banged up Buffalo. So that's something that hurts. It's something that might have affected his routes because he really hasn't had that bad of a year. It was more that one game against Jacksonville where Ridley just got the best of him with a couple quick moves, and he was a step or two behind, and they just exposed him. As soon as they saw that, they just kept going to him, and that was the difference in the game. But you knew something was off, and it's his second year. He's a first-round pick. I still believe in him. Anyway.
Up until we found out that it was injury and he gets put on IR, I just truly thought that they just realized that clearly we weren't seeing things that they were seeing in practice or the media was seeing in practice, or I thought it was a scheme thing. Yeah, it isn't a scheme fit, just wasn't clearly the talent that they thought he was. And there was all this, they were so hung up on his preparation that he really stressed in that interview that was well documented. So the fact that he's got an injury, so I'm not happy he's injured, but you're like, okay, there's something tangible here to explain the ridiculousness that we've been as fans wondering what's going on with a first rounder that we traded up to get.
When someone's used to one type of coverage, whether it be man or zone, man, you're like right on someone, you're locked in with them. Zone, you need to know when you're passing it off to someone and you give your space, and he's just got to get comfortable in the system. And sometimes it takes more than what it is now.
And speaking of the system,
yes,
picking up, it was pretty quiet, obviously, on the trade deadline day, and everyone was waiting with bated breath. And then all of a sudden, we're getting close to the end of it, and people are like, "What's going on? The Bills aren't making any moves here. We see the holes that we've had, open up due to a pretty catastrophic injury compared to going back 2-3 years from ago. We were the healthiest team in the league, one of them touted as like the healthiest, and now we've had these last 2 years of just riddled with injuries. but that's got TTP written all over it, picking up this Douglas guy from the Packers. And you know what TTP stands for? Trust the process. That's got trust the process written all over it.
We made 3 moves, but 2 of them were free agents, so it had nothing to do with the trade deadline.
So barring the free agents, as far as just actual trades, I thought we were going to do more than one, and that's probably just me being maybe naive or wishful thinking. Picking up Douglas is definitely, he's, like you said, developing. We didn't draft him, but like we brought over Poyer and Hyde and helped continue their development, and clearly, whatever I will say, despite some of the shortcomings that I have talked about with McDermott, he does seem to know how to develop cornerbacks in particular. So the fact that they picked a guy to come over from Green Bay who is starting to peak, it looks like he's peaking at the right time. Yeah. Maybe, like you said, maybe similar to the similar to the Poyer or the Hyde type of a deal. It wasn't quantity at the trade deadline. Bills fans are hoping it was quality at the trade deadline. Because if he can be I don't even want to say a poor man's Trey White, but we need him to, he needs to step into that role opposite of Christian Benford, is what we're presuming or assuming. I'm excited. I wasn't excited. At first I'm like, what's going on? Like I was, you maybe we're panicking. I'm panicking as a Bills fan, seeing the injuries we've had, and you're expecting fireworks, and it's the trade deadline, and the Niners are making moves, and the Bears are making moves, and the Commanders are selling. And I'm like, we're supposed to be buying, right? Like Beans, the big baller Bean. It's not flashy. I think our moves that we've done even before the year started, and then now the trade deadline, it's not flashy moves. Yeah. But will it be quality?
I think so. I think they'll be just fine. I mean, obviously they had adjusted Deion Dawkins' contract to free up about $4 million. And with incentives, Linval Joseph alone is 1.2 up to 3.65 or something like that. So with Leonard Fournette coming from practice squad initially, and then they could elevate him, and then bringing on Douglas, who's on a pretty good contract, I think they'll be fine. That's really all they could do. And then in the offseason, we'll see what happens. I mean, Knox would be a cap casualty, because even though they just resigned, which I actually don't think they'll do. I mean, they love the guy as a person, as a leader, as somebody they drafted, but he could be. I doubt it.
When they gave Knox that contract, it was an eyebrow raiser. To me, it was.
It was. But here's why you do it. If you truly want to run 12 personnel, you need 2 tight ends. You have somebody on a rookie contract in the first round that's 5 years. You could lock them up on a cheap deal. And Knox covers that ground. And then after that, Knox is gone because he's older. He'll probably go somewhere else or take a reduced, pay cut. Mm-hmm. And then we have Kincaid, who, if he's the next Kelsey, like some think, we'll be paying him a lot of money. So we, won't be able to afford him.
It is now. The irony is that, yes, that was the whole goal. And now, because of injury to Knox, on one hand, now we get to see more of Dalton Kincaid, because we weren't seeing a lot of that with Knox healthy. And now 2 weeks of just Kincaid, right? We've now seen Kincaid solo now without Knox, and stats are pretty.
They're giving him more looks, and he's obviously, I think he needed those first 6-7 games to acclimate. Then he was still getting 2 to 5 or 6 targets a game. They weren't always pretty passes, but he's catching anything that's catchable. I mean, even when they're behind him, the touchdown he had was at his hip. Another pass in the same game, Allen put it at his hip, but he's putting it where only he can get it. By him doing that, he's less likely to get popped by someone in front of him. I want to talk about Allen real quick. So we're 8 games in. Now, he's been playing 16 to 17 games a year. Last year, obviously, was 16 because of the Bengals game that got canceled. And they changed to 17 games in the 2021 season. So 2019 and 20, he played 16. 2021, he played 17. Last year, he probably would have played 17, but that was canceled. 2023, if you take those 8 games and you prorate it out to, let's say, 17, okay, for argument's sake. Let's say he plays all 17 games. His passing percentage will be the best it's ever been this year at 71.7%, which is what it is now. His yards, he will break 4,600 yards, 4,601, if he keeps that average of 270.6, which is his second best. Last year was 267.7. His best year was in 2020, the 13-second year, 284 yards a game. And 7.9 yards per attempt that year is the only one above this year, which is 7.6. He also had that last year. When you're looking at touchdowns, he's been in the 30s the last 4 years. If you're averaging out this year, it's the same as 2018 as a rookie. He played 12 games, 10 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, right? Obviously not good. Next year, 20-9. So he doubled the touchdowns to interceptions. And then 2020, 37-10. He more than tripled, almost quadrupled.
That was an awesome year. 37-10 is a hell of a ratio.
And we're not even getting into rushing yards and touchdowns, which is obviously setting NFL records so far. There are now more
behind
NFL
only the likes of Cam Newton and Steve Young. I believe he tied. Did he tie Steve Young or?
Yes, and he's passed him now. And obviously Lamar came out the same year, and he doesn't have nearly the same passing touchdowns or yards. So that's why he's breaking these records where you can cherry pick certain things.
Steve Young, that was an afterthought to me. When I saw Steve Young, when I was looking up the records situation with rushing touchdowns, of course, Cam Newton pops in your head right away. Steve Young, like I forgot how mobile he was.
He was a lefty and he was scrappy. He got smacked around a lot, but he also gave hits. He didn't just take them. And yeah, he was kind of like Elway, where he sacrificed his body and would do whatever it took. They didn't slide back then. They either ran out of bounds or, I guess they did, but nowhere near what it is now for NFL protection.
Yeah, I feel like from a rushing and rushing touchdown perspective from quarterbacks, he was an afterthought. And that's like, I remember collecting his cards as a kid in middle school, like going to the sports store and I'd get Mark Brunell or I'd get Steve Young or even Kelly or Elway. But yeah, for whatever reason, when his name popped up with Allen and Cam Newton, I was just surprising.
Looking at how Allen trended from touchdowns to interceptions and yards, right? So he goes from 10 to 20 to 37, the next year 36, the next year 35. This year he's projected 36. Then we go to interceptions. He went from 12 down to 9, then 10, and then 15, 14. This year he's projected 17. Now, other than that 3 interception week 1, his turnover worthy plays are the lowest he's had. It's like the second lowest in the league, yet he has the most turnovers because of freak plays. The ball bounces a certain way. They, sometimes there are cornerbacks that'll tip a ball and they get so close. In this case, every ball that was able to be intercepted was. So obviously that's kind of us, Allen apologist, but I do think that he's trending very well. And as far as the offensive line, he's been sacked 12 times this year. So over 17 games, that's 26. Last year was 33. We know there were problems. The 2 years prior, 26. So and then yardage, right? So rookie year, 2,074. The next year, 3,089. The next year, 4,544. The next year, 4,407. That was in 17 games. Then last year, 4,283, which was 267.7 per game. And now this year, 270.6. Like I said, second best. He's going to have 4,600 yards this year. And then if he rushes for 400 yards, which we know he will, that's 5,000 yards. He could have 6,000 yards by the end of the season if they actually do what Dorsey's capable of and what Allen is capable of.
We've come a long way from the 2020 season when people were saying that maybe this is a fluke for Allen because he played in empty stadiums. That was actually a real topic going into the 2021 season is Allen going to be able to match his success with fans in the stands? And well, the stats you just unveiled there, I think tell the story on that one.
Yeah. And we've set our expectations so high that Allen's over there doing this low positive and listening to Sinatra and Elvis before games to keep his mind balanced and not because, the whole, what is it? Candy Rush or whatever, Josh.
Fly me to the moon.
What would Michael or what would Kyle Brandt call him?
Sugar High Josh.
Sugar High, Sugar Rush Josh. Yeah.
Sugar Rush or Sugar High
Josh.
So,
I mean, against the Raiders, he was trying to leap his former college teammate and at the goal line, and it wasn't working. We don't want that, Josh. We don't need somebody with a bum shoulder running through people. We just need him to run like we know he can. That little 12, 13-yard touchdown where he looks at the corner dead in the eyes and drops the ball. Like, that's the type of Allen we want. We want someone who can slide but go 20, 30 yards or run towards the boundary line and sling it across his body like he's not supposed to and hit a wide open receiver. That's what we want.
Yeah. I think like when you talked about the stats, the negative shouldn't pop out because there's so much positive, but then of course the negative popped in my brain. The interceptions, like I feel like anything, like just from a perception, seeing it on paper, I think like below 15, you see like 12, 13, 10 looks good. You see like anything over 15 and it's like you see 17 like just projected 17 interceptions. I mean, you're approaching 20 at that point where you're like, okay, I get it. Like you got all-purpose touchdowns. Like say you're doing 45 to 50 all-purpose touchdowns is awesome. But then you see like almost 20 interceptions, and it's just like this. Oh,
have you seen the league though?
Yeah, I get it. Mahomes now isn't Mahomes leading with interceptions?
No, Jimmy G is, who's been benched for Aiden O'Connell after they fired their head coach and GM.
Wasn't Mahomes leading though before that going into?
Yeah. Mahomes has 8, and so here's what it is. Allen's got 8. Jimmy G has 9. Sam Howell has 8. Mac Jones has 8. Jalen Hurts, who was in the Super Bowl last year, has 8. Jordan Love 8. Patrick Mahomes 8. Matthew Stafford, who gives everyone the ball, 7. Tua 7. Daniel Jones 6. Desmond Ridder 6, who's going to be benched for Heineke or whatever. Maybe he's injured. So anyway, there's a bunch of 6s, and the fact that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks with 8 interceptions and 1 more with 9. That's 7 quarterbacks giving up that many. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just a different league. And this year,
people said the defense caught up this year. I don't know if that's simplistic.
Well, it is, because they have not scored as many points. Now, not every team is Miami. They're the anomaly. The truth is, the Bills have a big test this weekend against the Bengals, and they're just a rough matchup. I mean, look at Burrow. He started out week 1. I watched that game back, and the Browns, every chance they had, they were getting the ball, they were scoring. Burrow looked bad. I mean, what did he have that game? If I go back and look at the game log, I think he had three interceptions in week 1.
Pre-injury, right? This is post-injury.
Oh no, he had 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Yeah, he had 82 yards in week 1. And I mean, he had the calf injury, and then they sat him out a little bit, but he still played through, and everyone's like, "Oh, is something wrong? Is something wrong?" He's obviously come on strong because
he's healthy again. He was not healthy. Sure.
Against Arizona, he threw for 317 and 3 touchdowns. I think all of them were chase, and then played against Seattle and had 185 and 2 touchdowns. And then this past week against San Francisco, they upset them 31-17 in San Francisco. He had 283, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers, and he ran for 43. He
don't stay in San Francisco. They play in Silicon Valley in a boring, gray, techie-looking area where a stadium shouldn't be built. But I digress.
Okay, yeah, I get it. But when you're comparing these two teams, okay, they have Mixon, we have Cook. The numbers they're literally 33 yards apart. And then Allen obviously runs more than Burrow. Allen has 5 touchdowns to Burrow's 1 fumble, no touchdowns. Allen has 189 rushing yards to Burrow's 57. So obviously he's more of a pocket passer, but he's got all that swag. You know, you take Chase with 656 and 4 touchdowns, Diggs 748 and 6 touchdowns. The difference is everyone talks about Higgins and then Boyd. They each have 2 touchdowns and 200 and change for yards. Davis, who gets so much crap for being an average at best number 2, he's got 434 yards and 5 touchdowns. He could finish the year with 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. And then Kincaid, rookie, he's on pace for 70 plus receptions. He has 30, and he's got his first touchdown last week and over 250 yards as a rookie tight end who was a tight end 2 until a week and a half ago. They've got Shakir, who's coming on. They've got Hardy, who they signed to do something, and they start sprinkling him in there.
Yeah.
Murray hasn't quite been what they wanted for the red zone, so they bring in Leonard Fournette. I like Murray, though. He runs hard, and I think those two being 31 and 33, whatever, playoff Lenny came to play. And then Quentin Morris, he's got 1 touchdown on 1 catch. But he's a serviceable tight end 3 who's going to have to fill in for Knox, and they're going to probably run more 11 personnel than 12. But I kind of like that because they can sprinkle in even 10 personnel and just have a bunch of receivers out there. Throw it to Cook, throw it to Shakir, throw it to Hardy, throw it to Davis, Diggs. We got to be able to do the same thing that they do with Chase and Boyd and Higgins and Mixon, some of these other guys, you know?
It looks like the weather is going to be good, so we don't have to worry about it not being able to run routes or keep basic routes because of the snow. We're going to be able to do our full, hopefully, route tree and full offensive schemes with hopefully no weather dictating.
One thing that's interesting is we've scored 25 touchdowns this year to them scoring 14. But when it comes to field goals made, Bass and McPherson, who are both 2 of the best kickers in the league, are 11 of 14. They have 3 misses this year, which is unusual. Obviously, they've both been off. I really like McPherson, and we both have a lot of love for Bass. He's clutch, and he's been a little shaky. Sometimes that's confidence. Sometimes it's just a fluke thing. I think he'll come around. Like you said, the weather hopefully won't play a role in anything.
We've had much worse draft picks than Tyler Bass.
Oh, absolutely. So let's compare real quick. We'll do my usual points scored versus points allowed, right? We have scored the 4th most points in the league, and the Bengals, even though they're 23rd most with only 18.7.
You got to add a lot of asterisks to some of these stats because we all know that was not the same Burrow we're going to see tomorrow night. So
true, but that's the offense. When it comes to defense, we have the 3rd best defense for points against, and they have 17th. So obviously they've got some holes. We can obviously expose that. But they're tough. I mean, their defensive front is tough. And obviously, we don't want them playing dirty and rolling on Allen's ankle like they did last year. The game which we haven't even brought up, Damar Hamlin, until now. He may be active. He may not. McDermott said that it would be a football decision and not an emotional decision. It's going to be something that...
As it should be.
But when you're looking at numbers and Knox is out and they just put Kyer Elam on IR. They did just announce earlier today that Josh Norman is being elevated for this game, so he'll probably do special teams. It's all going to depend on whether they're actually bringing up Douglas, whether they bring up Fournette, and some of these. It's a numbers game, and maybe they would use him. But when Damar played in Week 4 against the Dolphins, it was when Poyer was hurt. But Damar is one of those guys I would love to see him come out. I mean, I know he'll be on the sideline regardless, and people will be cheering him on. And Cincinnati is a class act for that. They treated him really well. They obviously, between the Bill staff and Cincinnati's medical staff, they saved his life. They saved a man's life. And I think that was a Saturday night because the Bills are 5-0 on – it might have been a Sunday because they're 5-0 on Sundays where they complete the game. Josh Allen is very good in prime time. Their passing yards, they're 6th. Their yards per game is 6th. And he's going to show up. Remember when I knew Allen was legit was that Thanksgiving game against the Cowboys when he's just plowing through people and he needed that first down and he just emphatically gave the first down gesture. Like that's when he's a dog. And that was 2019, his sophomore year. I mean, I knew it when he dove his rookie year against the Vikings into the end zone, then jumped over the linebacker. But just statistically, this year alone, when you're comparing the teams and the numbers, it's a little skewed, like you said, because a lot of it's going to be in the Bills' favor because when they win big. When they lose, it's like, well, how did they lose to the Jets? How did they lose to the Patriots? Yards per game, the Bengals have allowed the most, but they play tough.
Their defensive coordinator is Lou Anarumo. He knows how to scheme. He knows how to adjust. And clearly, even though they don't flash on paper, their defense has clearly been able to handle us 2 times in a row. So,
well, they're 2nd in the league in interceptions with 10, and we have 8. We started strong, and then we kind of have not had many lately. But I do think Allen may throw a couple picks. I hope he doesn't. I think they need to do that quick game. He had the fastest release of his career last week. And they need to do more of that, not let him overthink. And if you saw the interview this week that both Allen and Brady were on, Brady was trying to give him some advice saying, don't force it into double coverage just for a few extra yards when you can check it down and just live to see another down and not take that chance. And he kind of just smirked and rolled his eyes and knew that, because he's like, Brady said, Allen's like my oldest son. You could give him all the advice you want. You can tell him one thing, but he's going to do his own thing at the end of the day. And that's true. But if he plays within his own limits, like without trying to push it too far, and he does what he did last week, I'm not worried. But I do think we could easily end up 5-4 after this game. And then what sucks is Cincinnati will be 5-3. Cincinnati in their division is they played Cleveland and lost. They played Baltimore and lost. Okay, so they lost twice in the division. So that's not good. But we also have 2 losses in our division against the Jets and the Patriots.
Yeah, so the conference record is obviously pivotal.
Right now, Cincinnati is a 2.5-point favorite at home. It's the first time in 27 matchups. So we went 27 games in a row where Buffalo was a favorite in their game. And this will be the 28th game, which is the first time. So
yeah, standard spread, right? You give 3 points to the home team. They're pretty much giving 3 points. Yeah, which I don't know. If you gave them more, you'd have Bills fans being upset, like we're not getting respect or whatever. You'd have some people saying that. And if you give them less, you'd probably be having people on the Bengals side being like, well, what the hell's going on? Something doesn't give here. We got the Bills that with a beat up defense and up until last week, a team that's lost to the Patriots who couldn't seem to beat anybody and barely beat the Tyrod Taylor-led Giants in Buffalo. It's, you could see both sides there. So I think the spread is, the Vegas seems to be pretty good at making those spreads. The Bengals should be favorites in this game. Let's just make it simple. I think the Bills in the last almost month have shown that they're an up and down team, as is evident by their win-loss pattern. The fact that we were a Hail Mary away potentially from almost losing to Baker Mayfield, and the fact that we almost lost to Tyrod Taylor if it weren't for some really bad decision-making and some coaching situations in that Giants game. And then the fact that we lost, we clearly haven't forgotten that we lost to the Patriots. That was embarrassing. I think that's, for me, the panic started there. I think that's the sense of dread that's kind of carried into how I'm feeling into this game, is that I wanted to have my palate washed clean after that Patriots loss, and it really hasn't happened. Even though we got a cheap win against the Giants and a cheap win against the Bucks, those weren't even though we got everybody involved and spread the ball around against the Bucks that we talked about, it didn't really cleanse my palate, that got the taste out of my mouth. So that's why I'm so nervous about this game, because we're going into a buzzsaw in Cincinnati, and we know what we're dealing with now with a healthy Burrow. And so I'm worried. I am worried about this game.
Me too. I mean, I worry about their defensive ends, Sam Hubbard and Hendrickson. They're both very good. But I actually have more faith this year in our offensive line. I think that Dawkins is having a great year, and our guy Spencer Brown, he's quietly having a pretty good year. We're not talking about him lately, and that's a good thing. Right? Mm-hmm.
True.
And on offense, I mean, obviously they've got those weapons that we've got to worry about. I've always liked Joe Mixon, but we can contain him. I know that our run defense is 31st, but a lot of that has to do with gap assignments and a couple blown plays, and you got an 80-yard run and you got a 72-yard run, and obviously that messes with the averages. But shoring up that defensive front with someone like Joseph and getting Oliver in there healthy, it makes a difference. It really does. We got to be able to handle Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Those guys. That's a lot. That's a lot to handle.
I don't know. Yeah, I know we joke around. We've joked around about this before in the past. How even dating back to pre-Josh Allen and Bean and McDermott years, that was always like, if we had the offense going, we couldn't have the defense going. If we had the defense going, we couldn't have the offense going. But are we too beat up on defense? And granted, this was before we made the moves with the trade deadline and free agency. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like before maybe we were too beat up on defense to have complimentary football. It was just kind of like we're trying to patch. It's like the Titanic sinking on the defensive side and you're trying to patch the holes, before you start sinking. It's kind of how it felt. It's maybe been a little smoother than that. Maybe I'm doing some injustice with that metaphor, but because McDermott has done a good job of keeping things afloat. I don't know. It's gonna take a damn near perfect game from Allen to win.
Let's get a bold prediction before we get into game predictions. Just give me a player or a stat, something that happens, or a prop. Bold prediction.
You're putting me on the spot.
Does Kincaid score his second touchdown of the year?
I'd say there's a good chance of that. There's a good chance of him scoring another touchdown.
Does James Cook rush for more than 60 yards?
Oh man, I don't trust how we manage running backs. I don't think we know how to manage running backs. Look at Zach Moss on the Colts right now.
Oh my God, he's getting less touches than Jonathan Taylor and outperforming him. It's crazy.
Hey, I don't think we know how to manage running backs, and I don't think we give our running backs enough opportunity. And part of that's just the way we play.
Remember Singletary's doing better than Dameon Pierce
on that one. I'm going to be Switzerland on that one.
Okay, now you can ask me. I guess my bold prediction will be that Tyler Bass will be 3 of 3 on field goals, and 4 extra points. So that means 4 touchdowns. That's 28 points, and 3 field goals. So we're talking 9, 37. Wow. Okay, so I'm guessing Bills score 37-31 Bills.
Nice. You know what? I want to say my bold prediction is that Josh Allen has no interceptions, but even that's tough.
That would be bold because he's generous sometimes.
Yeah.
Who has more receiving yards, Jamar Chase or Stephon Diggs?
Jamar Chase.
Who has more touchdowns?
I say that thinking in a way, this is credit to the Bills. If we spread the ball around like we did the Bucks, that's what I'm kind of, recent memory. I think that Burrow has less weapons than we do, like in totality, especially with us having Kincaid coming on. And I don't know. Yeah, the whole Khalil Shakir thing, is it a one-hit wonder? I don't know. That there's a lot to be.
He had 2 games in a row that were pretty decent. So I'm thinking that they're giving him more shots. That's been the biggest problem.
Yeah, as much as we've peppered, and that's not bad. We've peppered Diggs in this season with targets. Maybe sometimes to a detriment in some people's opinions. I want to say that Jamar Chase would have more yards, and that's with me thinking that we're going to spread the ball or spread the love again. That's my rationale there.
The only 2 injuries that the Bills have on the injury report would be AJ Klein, who's a special teamer, and Balin Spector, who can't stay healthy. He's out with a hamstring injury. So since AJ Klein plays special teams and Damar Hamlin would play special teams, and I think he does it pretty well. Do you think that increases his chance of playing? Do you think that Damar Hamlin's active or inactive on game day? It's a tough one. It is.
I'm going to say he's active.
Okay, I hope you're right. I'm kind of in the air as well, but I do think
there was some media that mentioned a talking point going into this game. Is it cruel that the schedule makers decided to do this? That they decided to make a primetime night game back at the same location a year later that this happened? Do you think that's cruel, or do you think that it's par for the course with the NFL being a money-making machine, and they knew that this was going to be big ratings because everyone from NFL Network to Good Morning America was going to be talking about this exact thing for a week leading up to this game?
I think it's good business, and I think that it's fine. If anything, the Bills want
to get rid of that. It's good business because we're talking about a guy that almost died, and a guy
that did die. He did die. He was resuscitated on the field.
That's capitalism, right? That's what makes the world go round. Is good old capitalism.
But to answer your question, I think it's fine. I think that these guys want to hit that reset. And last year, they fell flat in the playoffs at home. The Bengals fans bitched about not having a home field game, that they were robbed because they didn't get to finish that game.
A lot of fan bases felt robbed.
True, but we didn't get past. We got past round 1 of the playoffs and then fell flat. If we're going to do this, I could see the Bills playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I do. I could see it being the Chiefs, Niners or something too. I don't want to see that. I want to see the Bills. I want to see the Eagles or somebody like that. I would love to see that matchup. I know the Eagles were just there a year ago and they didn't get it done and they're going to be thirsty, but the Bills haven't sniffed the Super Bowl since 13 seconds. And before that, it was the mid-90s. Let's get to the predictions here. I gave you 37-31, which is much higher than I originally thought. Earlier, when you heard me say if the Bills win, they win 31-17. If they lose by 10. I guess I change that within minutes, but I want your opinion.
Like, if it doesn't show how much of a homer I am, my gut is telling me to pick the Bengals for my prediction, but I don't want to because I don't want to know what it would feel like to wake up Monday morning knowing that we lost to them 3 times in a row, that our conference record is starting to look somewhat bleak, even though we're halfway through the season. Yeah, that there's going to be all the questions that again arise from how we've played leading up to this game.
So are you saying that this is a must-win game?
I think it's a must-win game, yeah. And I think I want to predict. I don't want to have to predict against the Bills, but I'm going to predict that the Bengals win. And I hope I'm wrong. And I've been wrong clearly. If it's anything like my fantasy football this year, then then I'll feel safe that I will be wrong. I'm going to say 27-24 Bengals.
Okay, 27-24 Bengals, so a 3-point loss. I don't want it to be that close.
Yeah, I don't want it to be right. Hopefully we can. If I can make it for a recap, hopefully it's that I'm happy that I was wrong.
Last year I think we picked the Bills every week, other than our preseason season preview. Yeah. I think we predicted them every week, and 13-3 would be pretty damn good, and that's what they finished.
Yeah. And I want to have confidence in this team, but I think there's just like I'm having trouble letting go of that Patriots loss. Because I'm
having trouble letting go of the Jets still. I mean, they gave them that game. Josh was off. Clearly, prime time, 9/11. There's a lot with his psyche. Some of that 2020 talk with no crowd, there is some legitimacy to that as far as getting overhyped or being able to hear yourself and just play football. But part of that is he feeds off of that too. So there's a balance. And I think right now we're hitting the stride. You don't want to peak too soon. You don't want to be 6-1 and then lose 5 of your next 8 games, right? For the Bengals, last year they started 3-3. Everyone counted them out. They did well. They won 9 out of 10 of their next games. Then they won 2 playoff games before losing again. And for us, I don't care if we start 5-3 and then go 6-4. And then if we finish the season on a 7-game streak like they did a couple of years ago, I'm all for it. Just get your shit figured out before the playoffs and be healthy. And imagine if we got someone like Milano or Daquan Jones back for the playoffs. Imagine if Von Miller finally plays like the 29 to 31-year-old Von Miller and not the 33-year-old still rehabbing. That's really all I have.
And I know it's a week-to-week league, and it is. And you could try to do that. Well, we beat them, but then they beat this team, or we lost to them, but we beat this team, but they lost to that team. You can do that whole like rigmarole, right? Because
any given Sunday,
it is an any given Sunday game. But it is just like the fact that we almost lost to Tyrod Taylor at home, and it took some major mess ups.
Tyrod also played in that same stadium for several years. We probably gave him a warm welcoming. We know who Tyrod Taylor is, but he had a better chance of winning for them than Daniel Jones did. Let's be real. He's less likely to turn the ball over. He's mobile.
Make ourselves feel better because we almost lost to a Tyrod Taylor who, granted, he ended the playoff drought and he's very athletic, but like that was the dude that would never take chances and would give us.
That's just it. Daniel Jones was fumbling left and right, intercepting here and there. He trips over his himself. He had a 90-yard touchdown a couple of years ago, and he tripped over the turf. Yeah, that's the type of guy he is. He's not bad, but he's a doofus.
Yeah, I think. No, he's not a doofus. He's making $90 million or $100.
Well, he's a $90 million doofus. Then they re-signed him instead of Saquon Barkley.
I think, and this is it could be horrible rationale, and probably is, but I just like it's hard for me to get past the fact that we almost messed it up against Baker Mayfield and Tyrod Taylor, and you can't do that against Burrow.
We play down to our opponents, and if we're playing the Bengals and they're as good or better than us, that is the type of shit during prime time that you need to step it up. And the last 2 times they didn't, like you said, they can't make it 3 in a row. They can't. Just like it doesn't matter if you beat KC at home 3 times in a row in the regular season. You can't lose to them again in the playoffs.
When you say we play down to the opponents, you mean like we play like in big games we seem to shine, but then we sometimes lose it against lesser talent? Is that what you're saying?
You just summed up our season.
But explain the second round exit last year against the Bengals, right?
they fell flat, and I will give some excuse to their morale with
they
losing a guy on the. There was a lot. I don't even want to get into that. That was last year, but right now on an emotional high, I think they should, whether he plays or not, celebrate the life of Damar Hamlin and his comeback, because Damar Hamlin died on the field less than a year ago, and here he is on the team, whether it be active or not on game day. He's alive and he's playing his dream. Amen to you, and good luck Sunday night. That's my mic drop.
I like it. I'm going to switch hats real quick.
You're wearing the Wisconsin Badgers hat because you went to their hockey game tonight, right?
Yeah, they played Michigan. They're on a streak. They're on, I think if they win one more game, it's like the longest win streak they've had in a century or a quarter century. Yeah, they changed coaches, and he's doing really well. So, yeah, my brother took me to the game last minute today. And they beat Michigan last second goal with 5 seconds to go, beat them 2-1.
Michigan and Minnesota, like those are the teams that are hardcore. They're really good. So that's a lot of respect. Holy cow, that's a big win.
It was fun. Live hockey is awesome, and the Kohl Center was probably 2/3 full. I think there was 12,000 people there tonight. It was a great atmosphere. I'm gonna go ahead and take a page from your book. You gave that awesome mic drop and gave credit to Damar Hamlin. I'm going to go ahead and do the whole Josh Allen card thing. Kind of, since it was like a month of us being off air, so we're going to try to get back to the old swing of things. In fact, we are going to maybe try to take a shot of Fireball before the Sunday night game to try to turn the juju around.
Set your expectations low, and then you're less likely to be disappointed.
Yeah. As many of you know, as Scott surely knows, I'm addicted to buying football cards. And not only am I addicted to buying football cards, I'm addicted to trying to buy cards at the stores and retail boxes to try to pull an Allen card, because I'm sick of, I don't want to have to buy them online like I did on eBay and Macari and OfferUp, which is the smart way to do it. I want to be selfish and pull a card because I want to like actually have that feeling instead of buying it from someone else that did. But anyways, so I bought a couple boxes of Mosaic, a mega box, which Mosaic cards are awesome. Absolutely awesome. They're worth the extra price. This is at retail. This was $60 at Target.
Yeah, I've always liked Mosaic. They've got a lot of pretty cards. Their Mosaic stained glass is awesome.
Oh, man, they're super cool. Like for a comparison, this is $25 like at a Target or wherever. And they're still, you buy them because Allen's on the cover. They know what they're doing. But they're not near as good in my opinion. Mosaic is the way to go if you're going to like buy just to get into it at retail. Anyway, so I pulled this National Pride Josh Allen gold holographic, and I got super excited. Like I hopped up. My brother was like, "What'd you get?" Like I'm like, "Easy, be careful with it," as I passed it to him without the protector on it. And so I thought I maybe got like $100 card. Turns out it's like just above the base.
Yeah, like $10. You said?
Yeah, like $10. I think if it would have had honeycomb on the pattern, it would have been like $100 card.
So I've got the silver version.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. So it's like a level above the base. And I thought that I finally pulled like an expensive Allen card, because the only cards I've pulled are $10 cards or less. And anyways, but still, everyone else that doesn't care about the price, and maybe my heart's not in the right spot then because of that, they're all like, it's still a cool card. Like my brother's like, it's still a cool card. It's just that I want to pull like an actual legit Allen card out of a box, but that's as close as I've gotten. So, and then out of the same Mosaic boxes, the actual big, as you could say, the hit was this Jordan Addison Razzle Dazzle.
That's a beauty. He's having a hell of a season too.
Yeah,
I knew he was going to be good, but yeah, with Kirk Cousins
went down. But man, it's such a cool card. The graphics on it, it's kind of got that stained glass feature.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
I think I spent like in the last 2 months, I think I spent $300 on these $25 score boxes. And the best card I pulled out of that one was a CJ Stroud rookie. And it's got the circle holographs on there, which is pretty cool.
It's numbered?
And it is numbered. It's numbered 74 of 135. So
beautiful.
Yeah, so I've only spent like probably $500-600 in cards since moving to Madison, and I've got
you could have had a rookie auto.
I've got maybe $200 to speak for it. So Yeah,
now you've got a bunch of cards.
All in the name of trying to get a Josh Allen card that's impossible to get. Because at the end of the day, we've had this discussion, but it's so tempting because you're going to Target and you're going to get groceries, or you're going to get
rush.
It is a rush and a nostalgia thing, but we've talked about this. I've spent thousands of dollars on retail boxes, and I could have spent those thousands of dollars on a few big time hobby boxes, which are more expensive boxes you get online only.
Yeah, Nathan spent thousands on baseball, and he pulls some really nice ones. So, yeah, more money.
Hobby, right? He mainly gets hobby.
He almost exclusively buys hobby, and he banks
retail
on it.
For schmucks like me.
Well, he's got some Corbin Carroll rookies from the Diamondbacks, who actually he played in the minors right here at the Hillsboro Hops. He played for them for several years, actually. So that was really cool. When I realized that, I went and bought a couple of his cards. Actually, I have one sitting right here. Look at this. So that is Corbin Carroll with the Hillsboro Hops.
Right there you go. Shout out to the Hillsboro Hops.
Yeah, he's going to be Rookie of the Year.
Wow.
Yeah, he played in the minors for like 3 or 4 years, and he finally got his chance after he had like 31 games one year. But like with MLB, you need like at least half a season for it to count. Yeah, our boy Nathan lives in Oregon City. He's a big baseball fan. He's a sports fan in general, but I met him through coaching baseball.
When it comes to giving shit about being a Bills fan, he's very good at that.
So his team name in my fantasy football league that Greg's in is Josh Allen Sucks in all caps, and he's actually doing pretty well, which is what sucks. He's third in the league right now. I'm fourth. You were fourth, and you dropped down to like 7th or 8th because there's like 5 people with the same record.
Yeah, my team name is Fool's Gold.
Did you change your team name to that? Or
no, I might as well though.
You might as well. And your team name in your other league was 10-win boy, and now it's 3-win.
It was 10-win boy because I had won 10 games 2 years in a row going into the season in my SDSU league, and I was taking pride in that. And one of the guys, rightly so, gave me shit for it. And he goes, regular season doesn't matter. And so he called me, he said, Mr. 10-win boy. And so I was wanting to change my team name this year anyways to something fresh. And so I'm like, I'm going to make a play on the words that one of my teammates said. And so I changed my team name to 10-win boy. And lo and behold, I am now find myself at 3-5. And I have the next 3 games go against the top 3 teams in the entire league. And I play the top scoring team right now this week, and he has scored 203 points. He has scored more than me going into this game. It is going to so the theme. I'm listening to songs that involve praying for me this week because that's what my fantasy teams need is prayers. I put way too much research and listening to experts talk about who to pick going into the season, and now I'm just realizing that I'm the goof that spent way too much time researching to have average football teams. Yeah, everything was going great in my SDSU league. So I'm on a 3-game losing streak, and before that 3-game losing streak, I was sitting pretty. I was actually projected by ESPN to finish 4th. I picked up Devon Achane off of waivers when free. Everything seemed to be going okay. Bijan Robinson was still doing enough. And then it just came crashing down. Achane went on IR, and then that week I played my buddy Jake, and he killed me. Then I played. And then
Bijan had what, 1 carry for 6 yards?
Yeah, and then it's just been all downhill from there. I've had I was hoping that Bijan could help carry my team. He's done nothing the last month really. And then I have Dameon Pierce, that's been my running back 2. He was done. I dropped him actually out of spite.
You did, huh?
Yeah. So now
I haven't yet because I have nobody else when Chubb got hurt. I have Madison and Pierce, and it's killing me.
So this is how screwed I am in that league. I am now stuck with Bijan Robinson as my running back 1. Tajay Spears is now my running back 2. Tajay Spears is now my running back 2, and now I've got Devon Achane on IR, and I've picked up Zach Charbonnet again because I want to apparently have a fine wine sitting on my bench all year that's going to never age well because he's still sitting far behind KW3, also known as Kenneth Walker III. I should have drafted, but listen to some of the people say that, take Charbonnet because he'll end up feeding into the carries, and there's always a backup running back that ends up starting in Seattle, and couldn't have been further from the two so far. So anyway, I'm in a world of pain in my fantasy life. talk about your team in our league and in the league you're commissioner of.
Oh my God!
Done a lot of trades again, and you've built another juggernaut.
I really have. Let's see what I'm projected currently. Current projections, I'm going to be 10-4, and I'm currently 4-4 or something. But regardless of my record, they're saying I won't lose again. I have Justin Herbert, and on my bench, I've got Trevor Lawrence.
How did you get Trevor Lawrence?
You dropped him. So I've got AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson. How did you get Garrett Wilson? I've got George Pickens. How did you get George Pickens?
Dude, all the time I'm talking about how everyone needs to be pissed at you for making trades with you. Meanwhile, I've dropped like 3 players you've picked up.
And then my running backs, I drafted well. I've got Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, and Elvin Kamara, who really has paid off for me.
Dang,
and on top of that, for running backs, not that he's done much yet, but Javonte Williams is starting to come on. And then I picked up James Conner because someone cut him instead of putting him on an IR. Like, come on, Chris.
Who did that?
Chris
when did
Reyes.
That happen?
He did that like 3 weeks ago. He's sitting on my IR now. Like, I'm just like, damn, dude, I am ready.
Damn.
And I've got Kyler Murray on IR for trade bait. So and then tight ends. I drafted Hawkinson, and then I just traded for Dallas Goedert because I had earlier in the year traded for Laporta and then got rid of him to get AJ Brown and Goddard. I'm like, damn, like I'm loaded over here. Like my team is crazy.
Like you kind of showed me the ways, and we've both been playing fantasy for a while. You've been playing longer than I have, and you definitely showed me some tricks over the last couple of years. And I thought that the student was maybe starting to approach the teacher, but it couldn't be further from the truth. I am so not in your league in fantasy.
I think you just wear your heart on your sleeve. And I'm sitting here and I look back and I'm like, oh, I've drafted Baltimore's defense for 4 years in a row. You pick people that you know every year are solid. Like kicker, you dismiss kicker. I'm going for Tucker. I'm going for McPherson. I'm going for Bass. You don't waste the draft capital. What do you end up doing?
Hell
You
no.
get rid of the draft capital.
No more. I used to. I do not waste. I take a kicker last round. Doesn't matter how many people.
Here's why I disagree with you. You end up cutting or trading these guys that you pick early, like George Pickens and Garrett Wilson. What's the difference? Pick a kicker you're not going to need to bench except for his bye week. And you're good. You leave the position alone. You don't have to go, ooh, let's look at the matchup and base it off projections and see what team's playing. No, forget that.
Streaming kicker and defense is the least of my worries. That is for sure.
It's fun, but it can also cost you.
What cost me is making impulsive decisions. I was pissed off about Garrett Wilson because he had no one to throw him the ball, so I traded him to you.
You did, but you got what? Zay Flowers, who I also traded for. I
get angry about a player and then drop them as if they're going to care that I dropped them on my fantasy team.
Out of spite, you're like, I'll show you.
The Trevor Lawrence drop. I knew that someone was going to pick him up, probably you. Yeah. But I also was pissed off that even though honestly, I got him in the 7th.
Yeah, fantasy wise, he hasn't really done that well. I mean, he's rostered in 94% of the leagues, but he's averaging like 21 points a game. And there's games where he's getting 12.
Now I'm sitting with CJ Stroud and Will Levis as my starting quarterbacks.
You know what? I like how Levis has looked, and Stroud came on strong. He had 3 games in a row of 30-plus fantasy points. And then his team, the cart got ahead of the horse, and his team's just going to drag him down sometimes.
Have you seen the Texans' offensive line injuries?
I mean, no, but I've seen Nico Collins, and Stroud can just go, hey, somewhere out
there.
The
other offensive line is in
shambles. That's why Pierce isn't doing anything. I mean, Singletary's hardly doing better, but he's doing better.
Yeah, their offensive line is in shambles. It's like there's so many injuries.
Well, we turned this last 30 minutes into fantasy talk, which is good to catch up on, but now it's 11 o'clock here, and what is it, 1 a.m. there? In an hour for you, it's going to roll back an hour because of the spring ahead fall back.
That was good to talk about some fun fantasy stuff to get my mind off the fact that I predicted the Bengals to win this game.
Well, now people will have more time to listen to this since it's a Sunday night game, so this will go up, and then people will.
Well, if things work out the way they usually do for me, the opposite should happen. So
Yeah. Hey, you said the Bengals are going to win. So
maybe it's a double curse reversal kind of a thing we got going on here. I predict the Bengals to win. We take our shots of Fireball before the game, and it's just all is right in the universe.
I will have to go get some.
I start to like say to everyone that my fantasy teams are going to win, that the opposite should happen there. It should hopefully the opposites happen.
What is there? Hold on. There's 13 regular season games for fantasy football, and you won 10 last year. And then 14, you put
there's 14 in my SSU
Okay.
league.
Either way, let's say there's 14, and you
I won 10 games 2 years in a row.
So you went 10
One
and
of those
4.
10 seasons was my championship year 2 years ago.
Oh my God! So this year you're going to go 4 and 10.
Probably. That's par for the course. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the good and bad juju. It's good to hear from you. I'm glad you got to make some bold predictions, and I look forward to chatting before the game starts. And go Bills, man. So
I'm here again, and who knows when you'll see me next. I'm just a man of simple pleasures, out delivering mail until the sun goes up and sun goes down these days. But yeah, Bills Mafia, as always, pound some Labatt's, jump through some tables responsibly, and take a few hydration breaks in between those Labatt's. There's going to be plenty of people that are in Cincinnati as we speak, and I'm sure there's going to be some bickering going on because these are two fan bases that have plenty to talk about in between the game and tailgating. So,
like Tyler Boyd bringing up a player who's not even on the team anymore for a smack talk from last year. It's like, you can come up with your bulletin board material, whatever. It's Sunday night. Take care of business.
Yeah, past like the Damar Hamlin thing, connecting the teams and the hospitality that was shown by the city and the teams,
and Boyd getting us out of our playoff drought.
Yeah, but past that, there's not a lot of love lost as far as just the implications for potentially, Super Bowl and playoff implications for this game, and then just pride, not wanting to lose to this team 3 times in a row, and then have for fans and then the team, unless they don't pay attention to the media, which if they don't, then this doesn't matter to them. But having to hear it that we lost to this team 3 times in a row and we can't figure this team out, and it's our kryptonite. No one wants to hear that.
They've also been the Chiefs' kryptonite for a while. So we'll see. They were able to overcome it last year. Let's see if we can.
Yeah.
The Chiefs against the Bengals. So this is our chance. This is our chance to go to the Super Bowl and win.
All this is going to take to fix is just us taking a shot of Fireball. That's it. It's just going to fix everything.
Whether I'm at home or at the cheerful bullpen.
Send it out to the universe that I'm going to be done with work in time to be able to do any kind of pregame festivities.
Yeah, it's 7:20 for you. You should be home.
I should, yes. But I've also worked past 8 the last 2 Sundays. So
fingers crossed. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else, but I predict the Bills win 37-31. You predict the Bengals win 27-24.
Yeah. Yeah, I predict Bengals win on a thriller 27-24.
Well, that's going to do it for episode 45 of the House that Ellen Built. I'm Scott Kinmartin. With me sometimes is
Greg Vollmer.
Let's go
Buffalo.
Hopefully that works.
You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. What? You got me feeling like I'm Josh. Okay. You got me feeling like I'm Josh Allen. Yeah. Josh. Got me feeling like I'm who? Josh. Yeah. Josh Allen.
It's all right. It's just Amazon Sunday tomorrow. I just got to deliver like 250 packages. No big deal.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Josh Allen has to deliver 350 yards.
See, we would have used that bit in our bloopers if we were still doing it live. It would have been great.
What are you drinking? Looks like root beer.
Whiskey and Coke.
Oh, you're going hard at midnight. I've got a poppy. Hey, puppy. This is some grape stuff. It's
puppy.
It's a prebiotic for a healthy gut.
Nice.
It is not beer. It is not alcohol. But
the way you eat, you need something to help your gut.